This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Mike Murphy.
Thank you, Charlie. Yes, I am Mike Murphy, host of the Good Neighbor Podcast. We are a podcast that brings local business owners here in Northern Kentucky to the residents so that you can get to know them as human beings, people, rather than just a logo on a business card or the side of a truck. And so I've got somebody with me today, Kris Duncan from Absolute Inspection Services. He's a home inspector. And, you know, often these podcasts are about the business side of somebody, and we dabble a little bit in the personal side. But in the pre-interview, I tell you, Kris has such a powerful, compelling story. We'll spend some time on the business, but I got to tell you, the personal stuff is just kind of mind-blowing, and it's a story that needs to be told. And it's not just a story, it's multiple stories that I find quite amazing. And so if you're listening to this right now, I want you to listen to the whole thing, okay? That's my ask of you right now, because it's a story worth listening to. So, having said all that, and piquing interest, Kris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for that build up.
You're welcome. You've got quite a story. I mean, there's a lot of personal stuff that the more I have learned about you, the more I want to know about you. The respect level has just skyrocketed. And you and I have a few things in common, but I tell you, what you've shared with me in the pre-interview has been just amazing. So we'll spend a lot of time on that.
Okay.
We'll take as much time as we need to tell the story, because you've got a lot to say.
Okay.
But okay, let's set the personal stuff aside.
Okay.
Now that we've piqued that interest, your business, Absolute Inspection Services. Tell me, how did you get involved in home inspection?
Okay, so been in business. Started Absolute Home Inspection Services 3 years. It's coming up on 3 years in May. Okay. We'll get more into kind of like the compelling story. I don't know how this is going to flow, but one of the reasons I am a home inspector now is because of previous health issues. So, like I said, we'll get more on that personal side later.
Right.
But my background was a master electrician. I grew up, my father was an electrician and had his own company. So I swore, having to do summers and weekends with my father, I was never going to be an electrician. Like, that's not it. So by 24, I was a master electrician.
Right. That's the way it goes.
That's
right?
how it happened. So
Yeah.
Anyway, I did that for 11, 12 years. And I was doing commercial electric downtown Cincinnati.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it quite a bit, but that led to other things, meeting some corporate people in Cincinnati, which led to a transition into the corporate world where I took off the jeans and put on a suit and tie.
Okay.
And got into the corporate world and had a couple of departments, and I really enjoyed the corporate world as well. But then once again, times changed. COVID hits, I kind of jobs go away. And so I'm no longer there. And then health issues came into play. And then I kind of had to do a reset a few years ago and decided to become a home inspector.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to dive into that part now, or we can touch on it and go later.
Tell you what, let's put a pin in the why and everything. But you became a home inspector, so
Correct.
Here you are. You're a home inspector,
Mhm.
and a lot of the people that I know you as a home inspector. You've helped them immensely. Let's just talk about how you do that. So, from the standpoint of you professionally, what is your methodology, your viewpoint on home inspection and how you help people?
So to me, first off, I think sometimes home inspections, as we talked about previously, gets kind of a bad rap.
Mhm.
Sometimes a home inspector can get labeled as a deal killer.
Yeah.
And it's complete misconception. I believe that the role of the home inspector is to try to help people get into home.
Mhm.
And to be completely objective on an inspection. So instead of completely focusing, I guess, as the home inspector, trying not to focus just on deficiencies and prove my worth of why I'm there and, fail, Because it's not like that at all. First off, a home inspection is not pass fail. So that can take some of the pressure off for a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
A home inspection is based on the transaction, and what I'm focusing on is safety and functionality.
Okay.
Because you're trying to protect the client on their purchase. Now, we refer to code and building codes and certain things like that, but it is not a code pass-fail test. A home inspection is not pass-fail. It is completely up to the homeowner whether they want to pursue purchasing the property or not after getting a report back from a home inspector. So I look at it as a job of the home inspector is to inform the client of the issues with the home, but also to look at it like, okay, this is an issue, but you can do this to remediate.
Okay.
This is okay. And it's also to age systems and let them know like this system is this old and the expected lifespan is this many years. So now you can at least say, okay, I can budget for repairs in the future rather than just the whole idea is to inform my client of what they're purchasing.
Okay. Okay, good. So you're striving to present a picture of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And people do with that information what they will. You're just there to give that unbiased perspective of what somebody is buying or selling.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
And with the focus of safety and functionality.
Okay. So once upon a time, I was one of those people that looked at home inspectors as the devil. You know, you're sent to screw up the deal that we're all hoping we can put together as quickly as possible, get to the closing table with no problems. However, it really truly is in everybody's best interest to know the reality. And I had kind of a shift in perspective happen to me a few years ago. That was, I kind of understood, I can't remember who it was that explained to me how I could look at home inspection services through a different lens. And that is, rather than just have a home inspector come in when I'm doing a real estate transaction and I'm laying in bed at night worried that they're going to come screw up the deal, I realized it was in my best interest before I put my home on the market to go to a home inspector that I trusted and say, okay, I'm going to sell this home this spring. Put together a full detailed report on what it is I'm putting on the market. What am I selling? And when I did that, I had a home inspector come to me and say, man, oh man, this is a beautiful home. Well put together, well built. However, here are some things that you need to be aware of. And it was, boom, boom, boom. And I was grateful in that moment, like, okay, I get to address this before I put the home on the market so that when I do sell it, it's not a surprise to me at that moment. It's not a surprise to the buyer. I have a much higher likelihood of selling this home than if I had waited until an inspector looked at it while we were all trying to get to the closing table.
You're exactly right, Mike. You hit the nail on the head. A pre-listing inspection, majority of people don't get them. And I don't know if they're not informed to get them.
I don't think they think about it.
Or maybe, just not even aware. And I have found too that the majority of homeowners, they, especially if they've been a home well and they maintenance them, they think they're selling the best home. They think there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
And of course, they're going to list it. They're going to want the top dollar for that home.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when an inspection report comes back from the potential buyer, they're devastated by the amount of work that's done. And they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to take this much offer. I don't want to make these concessions.
Yeah.
So I do think it's wise if you're wanting to get top dollar, at the market value for your home, you need to go to the table with a seller knowing exactly what you're selling because the buyer's going to come prepared for exactly what they're buying.
Yeah.
So why should you be surprised as well? Sometimes if you have a pre-inspection done, the buyer may accept your inspection report and waive getting their own. They may still get their own and compare notes. I've had some where I've just taken the inspection report because I know who the inspector was. I reviewed it, and then I just made sure that the requested changes were made.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a fantastic idea. If you're going to sell your home and you want to get to the top of the market value, which you think it's worth, you need to have an inspector go through it.
Yeah. And I know to some people it might seem like, why would I do that? I'm going to have to pay for that inspection out of pocket.
Correct.
But think of it. You're about to engage in one of the biggest transactions of your life. what you're going to pay that inspector to help you get to the closing table quicker is a drop in the bucket. It really shouldn't even register on the scale of overall cost, because it's so valuable.
It's a low percentage. I think a lot of the drawback is it's out of pocket money. But a lot of times everything's financed, and sometimes it hurts when it comes directly out of your pocket.
Yeah.
Your average home inspection, though, is only $500. And when I say only, your average home is what, $250,000 plus? So $500 compared to protecting, a $250,000 investment, at least, even if you don't make concessions or it doesn't do anything to the purchase, you're getting a report of the story of the home, so that after you move in, you know the age of your appliances, the age of all your systems, like what potential hazards could come to the home down the road. Not just, hey, worrying about a pass fail, which it's not. It's also a book of information that 3 years in, your hot water heater stops working. Well, oh yeah, we knew that. You can still refer back to the report and like, oh yeah, he said it had about 3 years left. You can budget for repairs. You can be more, I guess, knowledge is power. And whether you're buying or selling, the more everybody knows about the home, the happier everybody's going to be.
Yeah. It's reality. It's information. It's information that you need. You shouldn't bury your head in the sand, whether you're selling or buying. It's in everybody's best interest to embrace the home inspection process.
Treat it. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I advise you treat it for what it should be. And the idea is to inform everybody involved of the house. It's not to find deficiencies and try to tear a house down or scare somebody from buying a home. It's to inform of somebody like, here's a home. Here's what observations we found. Here's some things you can do for it.
Have you ever found something that's like way better than code, and you're like, damn, this is great. This is.
Oh, it happens quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can tell, and that you can tell just good craftsmanship, good workmanship. Versus, there's a lot of flips now.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of things that are not up to code and that are
they're just trying to get through it so they can get their money. And
and that's big business, right now. Well, it has been over the last few years, is the flips. And and a lot of the flips come in, they hit a good target market for pricing. Okay. For first time home buyers. A lot of first time home buyers are in that market or that price range of flips.
Okay.
And so they're the ones that need protected the most because they are the most scared. This is their first purchase. This is one of the biggest things of their life.
Yeah.
And now a lot of the homes that they're being looked at are ones that they're flipped. Now, there's great flips. I'm not putting a bad mark on any flips. However, there's bad ones.
Yeah.
And we know a lot of time the intention of a flip is to get through things.
Yeah.
So it's to protect that first time home buyer on things along that nature as well.
So you're helping people that are vulnerable, that can least afford to make a misstep.
Yeah, and particularly I know to focus on first-time home buyers, but those are the ones that need the home inspection the most because those are the ones that are they're just so nervous about the entire process. And if they have a great real estate agent, they're walking them through the whole thing. But if you can at least hold their hand through the what they know that they're purchasing, whether good, bad, or indifferent, if they just know what they're purchasing, you can help take some of that anxiety away from them.
Okay. So I think we've done a good job of kind of explaining, the benefits of a home inspection service. I want to kind of touch briefly before we get into another part of your story that I find so intriguing. Let's talk about family. So I've not met anyone in your family. I've not met your spouse. I don't know much about them. So I'm learning along with the listeners. Okay. Tell me about your family.
Oh, our family is amazing. So my wife, Claudia, we've been married back in August was 5 years. So a little over 5 years now. And children-wise, like I said, empty nesters kind of in a way. They're still at the age where they come and go. But we have four children. I've had 3 stepchildren and a daughter. So Ernesto is our oldest. He is 26.
Okay.
And let me make sure I take it back. He turned 27. I got to get the ages right. He's 27 now. So Ernesto's 27, and he's an electrician as well, like me. So yeah, of course, right?
You just can't escape it.
You cannot. So, and I tell you, one of the beautiful things about it is working together. Now he's a journeyman looking to get his master's, and working with him side by side on work I get now. You can't beat that. You just really can't.
Right.
And then Monica is the middle daughter, and she got engaged last week.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, Monica, her and Matt. So Yes, she's 25, just recently engaged. And then we have the youngest boy, RGO. He's 23, and he's still kind of figuring out things, doing his thing, working. He lives in Indiana. I don't get to see him as much, but he hangs out. Then we have the youngest, Autumn. My daughter she's 22, getting ready to turn 23 in May. And so, yeah, she just got her first, what I call big girl job. She finished up college last year and just recently got hired digital marketing. That was her major in business management. So she just recently, congratulations to her too.
Good.
Started her job. So, yes, 4 children in the 20s. I would imagine we're going to have a lot of grandbabies coming years. So, no, that's a family, and it's I love it.
Okay, well, you seem very proud of them.
I am.
Because your face shines when you talk about them. You're smiling the whole time, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, it's having family is important. Yes.
Well, you've got this wonderful family supporting you, and it's a good thing because the part of the story that I've alluded to earlier, multiple stories. I don't know how we really approach it, but there's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all around your personal health. And I don't really even know where to start, but I just want to make sure that we get to talk about it.
Okay.
We can't tell all of it because we'd be here, all evening. But however, I want to make sure that we give people an understanding of everything you've gone through and how it relates to your faith, your appreciative of everyone that's kind of supported you.
Correct.
And so let's get into that. I know there's an elevator shaft involved.
Yes.
Because as we talked, the story kept going backwards and backwards. You kept stepping me back, and that started this way, and that started because of this.
Yes.
But the elevator shaft is kind of where I'm kind of starting. So let's start there. What happened?
Okay. So I guess that kind of started I would say like where my first health issue started the first time I found out that I had a health issue.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I realized God was protecting me.
Okay.
So yeah, I forget the year I fell into the elevator shaft because I had the surgery. I had the surgery in 2006. So this must have been right around 2000.
Okay.
I fell into an elevator shaft. Being an electrician, I was in a commercial building. We had a dark outage. Whole building was out.
Okay.
And we have a freight elevator. Get the door in to find the door. We thought the freight was on this floor. Apparently it wasn't.
Yeah.
So you have to pull the door in. I went to take a half step in to step in the elevator. When I realized the elevator was not there, I couldn't catch myself. Yeah. I fell. Good thing it was only 2 floors down. I landed on top of the elevator shaft. I busted some ribs open, hit my head, and I severed a couple ribs. That was really painful.
Because falling into an elevator shaft only happens in the movies.
It really does. And in the dark and landing on top of it, right? Yeah. Not knowing where you're going to land. I mean, that
what
2
a scary
second,
thing.
I don't even think I had time to think about if I was going to hit. I fell and hit.
Yeah.
And then I pulled out of it. I climbed up a condo and pulled myself up. I was yanking me up, pulled back out, and I busted ribs. And
That's incredible.
And I'm like, well, don't tell nobody. It's embarrassing. So I stayed for another 3 hours at work because I wasn't bleeding. I said a bump on my head, and I'm just kind of can't breathe. And then I went to the hospital.
All right.
Anyway, long story short,
3 hours later.
Yeah. So long story short on that, because I'd hit my head, they did a CAT scan, and they told me that they thought I had a brain aneurysm, and they said more testing to happen. Come to find out, they're like, no brain aneurysm, but that's the good news. The bad news is you have a brain tumor. So what they found at that time is I had a floating mass right between my brainstem and my spinal cord. Mm-hmm. Now, non-cancerous. However, they're like, it's a very delicate area. It's small enough. It's about the size of a tip of a eraser, of a pencil.
Okay.
Very small. But if it moves or attaches, issues. Now, I wasn't having symptoms either. So they found this because I fell. So I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, for 6 years, I had to get an MRI. Every
monitor
every quarter, 2 of them. You had to slide through, pull the cage of your head. They're intimidating, but you get used to them because they're really loud. Be laying there, they pull the cage of your head, and then they pull you out. They give you a shot of a contrast get you back in.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do that every quarter for like 6 years. And that's when, during that period, I started having anxiety issues.
All right.
Because I'm walking around with the unknown of this floating tumor in the back of my head. And it led to some anxiety issues, which led to some panic attacks.
Understandably so, by the way.
And it's just the unknowns. It just wore on me. It really did. But anyway, after 6 years, without symptoms, one of the MRIs come back and they're like, hey, we got to do surgery attached to your brainstem. Once again, like, no symptoms. I didn't know. I'm like, well, good. Let's do this, because it was an answer. It was an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the surgery done, and I was in 2006. It was successful. There were some hiccups after the surgery. Got meningitis in my spinal cord fluid. That almost wiped me out. I had to get back in the hospital. That was another few months stay. I got through all that, and it was a really, really rough recovery, getting back on my feet, learning to do everything, motor skills, a lot of different things. But I was able to do it. I didn't know at the time it was preparing me for other things. That was just the beginning.
Yeah, because there's more to come.
Yes, that was the beginning. That was me at the time, not knowing. You always question, what am I going through this? Why am I going through this?
Yeah.
Well, now I know it was preparing me for what was coming up later.
Okay. Yeah.
So the beauty of after that surgery too is it eliminated the anxiety. So because I wasn't walking around thinking I was just going to fall over.
Mm-hmm.
I survived the surgery. I got through the surgery. I'm back. I'm healthy, and no more panic attacks and no more anxiety. So that's great. Everything is going well. Then I guess we just refer to that because that was in 2006, and that just prepared me. So I stayed healthy since. But then, 2020 hits, COVID hits, everything's going crazy. I just left my job in the corporate world because the whole world's shutting down.
Yeah.
And I got really sick. I went to the urgent care, and I was coughing blood coming out my nose and little thing. And I felt horrible for a few months.
So you took yourself to urgent care. You're just like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. And I felt bad. And I was gaining a lot of weight. I'd gone my normal weight back then. I was a little heavier. My normal weight back then was probably like 220, and I'd swelled up to about 240, and it was keep gaining. I was gaining water weight, not realizing it.
Yeah.
Because my liver was failing. And so anyway, when I get to the urgent care, that's when they're like, oh, your liver's failing. It's really, really bad. I was there, like I said, 103 days before I went home. So they found out with the liver failing. I'm at St. E's for 5 weeks, and they're just trying to get everything in order. And I'm in and out, and it comes down to, like, if I don't get a liver, my time, I'm expiring. And so, the miracle of God. So I ended up getting a liver within 48 hours. And that right in itself is another miracle amongst the many that I've been through. And so when that happens, I go through the surgery. So surgery of that is success. So now we're in October. We're in November of 2020. Oh, Mike, let me backpedal again. I know there's another little caveat to part of the story too. Mm-hmm. So when COVID hit and all that, and then one of the reasons I kind of stepped away from work that's when I took my father and mom in at my house because my dad was in hospice. He was passing away from cancer. And so I'd moved them into my house in hospice. So I'd just done that, they'd been at the house, and then all of a sudden I get sick during the same period. So I ended up going to the hospital in September. I'm in the hospital for a month. My dad passed away. So I missed all of that too during COVID. And then he passed October to November. I have to have my transplant. I got lucky and got a transplant. And so that transplant was in November. And I come out of transplant, and it worked. And I just feel better. It worked, but then comes the other news. So like, okay, success, but now your kidneys are failing.
Okay, so right there, you've woken up. Mm-hmm. You've had the issue with the liver.
Yes.
And what's the next thing that hits you?
So I wake up. This is November. From the liver transplant, and it's a success, and I already feel better because the last few days, month leading up to the liver transplant, they're putting fentanyl patches on me, and drugged up. I don't remember a lot, right?
Now, did you have the jaundice? Were you yellow and stuff?
Oh,
like
all
or-
that. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I was.
right.
It was. I looked like a lizard.
Oh,
I had the yellow eyes.
Yeah.
I picked up a lot of weight from the water and
Mhm.
everything. It was, yeah.
You didn't look like you.
Not one bit. It was bad. I got pictures of it.
All
I
right.
got some
Yeah,
pictures.
yeah,
There's
right,
before and afters, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But so now I have, so liver's fine, but my kidneys, because of the damage that done from the liver failing and the surgery of getting a new one in, now my kidneys are not functioning properly.
All right.
So I'm on dialysis at this point. I wake up, I'm on dialysis. Now I'm still in the hospital. And this is COVID's rampant. Now, as I'm dealing with all this, that was the first 5 weeks was at St. E's. Then the surgery was done at UC. And then I'm in recovery there. Now, you have to imagine during COVID, there's no visitors.
Right.
The rooms are, you don't get your own room. You're shared with other people. They're understaffed. Place is full. I mean, nobody knows what to do. It's COVID. And I'm going through these transplants.
Yeah.
So-
People were kind of making it up as they went, and nobody really knew.
And it's nobody's
how to handle
fault.
it, right.
The whole world's
Yeah.
the whole world's being shut down by
It
unknowns.
was just a bunch of
And I'm
craziness
just laying
happening.
in there in the middle of it, right? So anyway, so kind of made it a lot different. Like you, I guess a lot of thinking because you lay there the whole time recovering without talking to nobody.
Yeah.
No TVs, no nothing. You don't. Anyway, beyond that, so I'm on dialysis and everything at that point. I started to get better. They sent me to another hospital called Encompass. That's more of a recovery hospital because I had to learn motor skills and different things.
Yeah.
I had to learn to walk again. I don't think I told you about that point either. So when I get out, they send me home after 103 days. Now I go home and it's Christmas Eve.
Really?
Yeah. It's Christmas Eve, and oh man, it's a part of the story too. I get home, it's blustery, snowing a little bit, super cold. I'm in a wheelchair, the wheelchair's not there. I think I'm on a walker. The wheelchair's not there. I ordered one. It's just inside the door. I didn't know that, but I have one step to get into the front door, and I got my walker, and I go to take that first step, and I go down. It's me and my wife and my stepdaughter. Well, I can't get up. And so they put a blanket on me, cover me up, and they're trying to get me into the house. So I tell the joke, it's like I just spent 100+ days in the hospital, and it's like I'm in the desert looking at an oasis. I'm sitting on my front porch with a blanket on me, trying to get into my house. I'm so close. I'm so close. And so they realized that the wheelchair had arrived previous to me coming home, and they were able to put the wheelchair together real quick and slide me into a wheelchair and get me into the house.
Okay.
But anyway, I just thought that was part of
Thank
just
you,
the
God, for the
little
wheelchair, yeah.
struggle to get into the
Right.
house, you know.
My God.
So I'd made it home, and then the physical therapy and all that starts. Okay, so now I have these 0 kidneys, so to speak, and I'm on dialysis 4 days a week that I have to go to while I'm in all my physical therapy. So I'm learning to walk again. I'm going to dialysis in a wheelchair, in a walker. You know, just it's a lot. But during it, the kidneys go to end-stage renal. So at this point, it's 8.5 months in that I've been on dialysis and I've removed from my liver transplant. I have to have a kidney transplant. They're dead. So because of the liver transplant, I was able to go on to up the list for transplant eligibility called some safety net program because one transplant caused the other one. But they're like, for the longevity of your life, it would be much better to get a live donor versus your deceased donor. It's just a lot better for you. So at that point, we talked about, how do we find a donor? Let's get some people swabbed. You look at what's the website look like setting up. We want to put a whole campaign together. So the first step is you start looking for a live donor. So, I'd asked a couple family members, my daughter. And then this is where, once again, the story just takes another turn. And this is why, the faith in God and everything, just some things you can't explain. This is God's will.
Right.
So my wife, Claudia, I talked about earlier, she's born and raised in Nicaragua. I tell her, she's like, I'm going to get swabbed. And I'm like, there's no sense. Family members are swabbed, just, Yeah. She insists on it. And everything comes back. Well, she's the perfect match, Mike.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Born and raised
from Nicaragua. You're right. And who would have ever thought?
And no, it proves we're all the same on the inside, no matter what.
Right.
And so, yes, I have her kidney. It's right in front here. So,
that's incredible.
And it's a champion kidney. It's amazing.
The best part of you.
It is. Yeah, she's got me with that one. So, just getting that, I'm just so blessed, to be here, to have her, her, first, the willingness of her.
Yeah.
That's not talked about enough. The willingness of her sacrifice to give her kidney to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, now I have her kidney and I'm on the recovery path. And so then there's a hiccup after that. At that point I get organ rejection. Now, my body's a chemistry lab.
Yeah.
I've been through a lot. And so at this point, organ rejection is kind of crazy. They had to put me on these weird medicines to try to combat it. And I ballooned up to 290 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, in 11 days, right? And then they had to give.
That's crazy.
Well, then they had to give me these water pills and water medicine that pull it all off. It's all water. To pull it all off. And then I ended up losing that whole 90 pounds in 7 days. My skin was so tight, it felt like you stretch a balloon.
Yeah.
You couldn't touch me. It felt like my skin was burning. It was just so bizarre.
It doesn't seem like the human body would be able to withstand that drastic of a change over such a short period of time.
Oh, double X clothes wasn't getting on me. Couldn't have no shoes fit, couldn't put socks on. I mean, it was only for that 2-week period while my body was going through this organ rejection and the medicines they were giving me.
Yeah.
And then it was at that time I decided to become a home inspector.
Right.
So, yeah, why wouldn't you? That's I often joke with, my wife. It's, I'm laying there in bed and I'm like, okay. It's like, I've been through all this, but I'm going to be okay. I just, I've gone through so much. And the fact that I was still living, it's like, it'll be okay. I mean, what can you take from me now? Right? I got this. So I'm like, what can I do? That I had some criteria of what am I going to be when I grow up now? I was like, I'm a master electrician by trade. I got a dozen years in the corporate world with business. And I need to have something where I have schedule flexibility because now I have a liver team. Now I have a kidney team. Now I have multiple doctor's appointments. There's a lot there. So I landed on home inspector. That checked all the boxes. If I start my own company, and I had that scheduling freedom, and I can apply this skill. So I was able to complete all the needed training for the home inspector online because usually it's in person. Because of COVID finishing up, they were still allowing online. So I'm still sick. I'm finishing up online. I'm not physically able to do home inspections. So I did all that part online ahead of time. As soon as they allow you to go do the physical part, I'm physically able. I go down there and finish up. And then I got to do it this week.
Okay.
So I was ready to do this before I was even physically ready to do this.
Yeah.
And I think part of my healing through that was knowing I was starting a company that gave me something to do.
Okay.
Something to strive for. And that's why with this company, that's why it means so much to me now, because it helped me heal. It gave me something to work for.
Mm-hmm.
And now that it's working, I'm just really passionate about it.
Yeah. So it speaks to the human condition, human will. It speaks to God's hand in things because just in terms of the timing of things, the story overall is incredible. And it's a story still being written, by the way. Of course. Now let's pray that, the hospital bed days are behind you.
Well, we just finished one up, but again,
there was another
hiccup.
Spinal surgery. When I came to know you, you were weeks away from this most recent surgery. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. So what did that entail?
Well, then that one was too, it fell back from the previous one being found. Once again, these things are found. There's a reason why they're found, Yeah. So when I was getting worked up for the kidney transplant and after the liver transplant to do a full body, they found a tumor on my spinal cord then, but it was small and I didn't have any symptoms. And I just wanted to live at the time. So we're like, we'll deal with that at a later date. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm finally healthy. I'm finally doing great. And then back in August, that sucker reared up its nasty head. And all of a sudden I got arms going numb, right arm, then left arm, then I'm dropping things. I know what's wrong. I go back to them. MRIs. They're like, okay, this tumor has wrapped around your spinal cord. We're going to remove part of your spine and we're going to get it out. Tomorrow will be 6 weeks when I had that done.
Yeah.
So when they do it eventually, because you talk about faith, and I think it's important I want to point out, faith is what has gotten me through everything, faith and family. And the quote I use, and I mentioned to you earlier, and I like to tell people is when you go through things like this, there's different mentalities and ways you can take it. And sometimes you beat yourself up like, why is this happening to me? Why me? Why me? And I heard this along the way, and I just started practicing and using it, and it changed everything to me. Is stop telling God how big your problems are, and start telling your problems how big your God is. And when you do that, you just give it all to Him, and all you got to do is worry about what you got to worry about. Your stress level goes down, your anxiety goes down, and He's going to handle it for you. And you do your part. You don't just sit around. You got to heal. You got to do your part. But if you just, don't. Everything that happens for a reason, and anything that has happened through me that has been any type of negative impact has had a positive impact on the other side. There's reasons we go through things, and there's preparation. In which, I said previous to you, Mike, is had I not gone through the brain surgery and that health issues back then in 2006, I would not have been mentally prepared to go through everything I've gone through recently. So that was a stepping stone. At the time, I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
This is hindsight looking back. And that prepped me for the transplants. And then going through all that, and then now just having, tumor off my spinal cord, to me, that was like, okay, let's just go and get this knocked out, be laid up for a few weeks and move on. Like, it's just, we're okay. We got momentum, and it's just, it gives me that positive perspective and positive attitude.
Yeah.
Just plow ahead. God's got this.
Yeah. Sometimes through what seems to be a tragic occurrence in our life, as bad as it seems in that moment, as you move through time and you have perspective and you look back, you realize that born of that moment has been tons and tons of blessings.
Of course.
And there are blessings that will be born of that are ahead of you still, that you have no idea what they are, that they're coming, but they're out there.
Of course.
And through time brings perspective and understanding. And so all I can say is, from my perspective, looking at you, it's amazing that you look as good as you look and that you have the attitude that you have, because I'm sure not all of the days have been sunny and rosy.
No.
You're a human and you have your human moments. And so it couldn't have been easy. But I've never known you to complain or, just you've always had a good attitude. And having heard the story that you just told, I have a lot of respect for you. And
thank you.
I think that, just having people hear what you've gone through, everybody has their own stories,
of course,
but they can kind of relate to, whether it's a medical thing or just some sort of challenge, hurdle that they have to overcome. They see, gosh, okay, if he can get through that, then there's hope for me too. So I appreciate you sharing with me and with the listeners a bit of your story.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that you and I could talk about relative to that. And I say this a lot to my guests. It's like, we need to have another podcast to talk about ... Well, we need to have another podcast to just kind of talk about kind of some of our shared experiences and how they could be used to help others who are going through something tough in their life in the moment. There's people out there listening to this, whether it's, this week or 3 or 4 months from now, because this podcast is going to live a long, long life.
Yeah.
People will be hearing this many, many months or years from now, even. You're giving hope to somebody out there. You just don't know who that person is or what the situation is. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I mean, I appreciate it. And I do want to give hope because, it sounds like I've been through a lot. Yeah, I've been through a lot. Okay, cool. But
You have been, so admit it. Yeah.
Yeah, but everybody's story is different. Everybody goes through it. I'd like to say that, I'm a cautionary tale, and I don't mind talking about it because I think at the end of the day, anything's achievable with the right mindset. And that's business. That's getting through health. That's getting through relationships. That's getting through anything. I mean, if you just, have faith and have a good attitude, that can fix anything.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. I think with that message, we'll end things on that beautiful note.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I'm proud to be your friend, and I'm proud to have you here today to help tell your story.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
All right, everybody. There you go. There's one man's kind of perspective on life and overcoming some of the stuff that happens to people. Kris has had more than his share of human things happen to him, but when you reach out and share your experience with others, they can kind of see themselves in you a little bit. You never know who you're helping when you're sharing and when you're being vulnerable. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everybody. Well, that ends this edition of the Good Neighbor podcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next time, everybody, be good to your neighbor. So long.
Thanks for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Union. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpunion.com. That's gnpunion.com, or call us at 859-651-8330.